Have you seen that word before? That's a pretty useful word. It's used quite a bit.
No, sir.
Okay. Well, we've seen it in many different books actually, and that's when you can hear something, but there's something blocking it, so it's not clear. So, like for example, if I cover my mouth, my hand is blocking my mouth. Maybe you can't understand me very well. That's a muffled voice. There's something blocking my voice.
Yes,
So you can hear it, but you can't really hear it clearly. Do you understand?
yes, yes,
That's a pretty common word, actually. Uh, can you see the example sentence that we have up here?
yes.
What is it? Can you read it?
Okay. He spoke in a muffled tone because his scarf was covering his mouth.
What is a scarf? Do you know?
Scarf means like cloth.
Okay. What is the scarf for?
It's covering mouth.
Okay, like I'll just show you a picture in case anybody watching doesn't know what a scarf is. This is a scarf. But that can cover, like you said, that can cover your mouth
Yes, yes, yeah.
to protect your face a little bit or your mouth. Okay. So do you understand that sentence? He spoke in a muffled tone because the scarf was covering his mouth. So maybe it was not easy to understand.
Yes, yeah, because he covered his mouth with a scarf.
Yeah, and the way it sounds is muffled like this. That's muffled. It makes the noise.
Mm,
Is
yes,
that pretty clear?
yes, clear.
Okay. Now, if we take the first four words, can you say the first four words of that sentence?
He spoke in
Okay. What is the biggest word? What is the most important word in that phrase?
spoke
Spoke. Okay. So if that's a very important word, how does it sound?
is a high tone.
Well, we're not doing music yet. First, we're just finding the rhythm. We'll talk about music a little bit later. But right now, we just need to find the big, small rhythm. So, how should
Yes,
spoke sound?
S- spoke.
Yeah. So, and the other words are very small. He's spoken a,
Yeah, he spoke in
spoken a. Longer. Make the vowel sound longer. He's spoken a.
he spoke in
Okay. Now, the word muffled, is that an important word? Well, let's do muffled tone together. Muffled tone. In that phrase, muffled tone, which word is more important?
is muffled.
Muffled, because it's an adjective. Usually, the adjective will be more important than the noun. Okay, and
Yeah.
which syllable in muffled has the accent?
Muffled.
Muffled,
Mu-
muffled,
muff. Muff.
muff. Okay,
Muff. Yeah.
muff. All right. So now we're just building our big, small rhythm. He spoke in a muffled tone.
He spoke in a muffled tone.
Okay. Uh, what about the next three words? What are the next three words in that phrase?
Yes, uh, because it's a scarf.
Okay. Because his scarf. And what do you think, if you had to identify at least one important word in that phrase, what do you think it should be?
It's a scarf.
Scarf. Okay. So we'll make that. So if that's important, we'll say it like an important word, and we'll say scarf.
Scarf.
And this, how will you pronounce because his? They're not important. So how do they sound in a phrase?
So because it's because it's
Becauses. How would
because it's
uh-huh. How will you say these words? Because his scarf was. How will you say those words together?
because it's a scarf words. A
Hmm.
scarf words.
Because his scarf was. Because his scarf was.
Because it's a scarf words.
He spoke in a muffled tone because his scarf was.
He spoke in a muffled tone because his scarf was.
Okay, is it spoke or spoke?
He spoke.
Mhm. He spoke in a muffled tone because his scarf was.
He spoke in a muffled tone because his scarf was.
Okay. Now, the last three words, what are the last three words in this phrase, in this sentence?
It's covering his mouth.
Can you identify the important words in that phrase?
His mouth.
Okay. I think maybe also covering.
Yes.
Okay, so in that word covering, where is the accented syllable?
Covering. Is
Covering.
a
Co-
cob.
covering.
Cob.
Co-
COB.
okay, covering. Covering.
Covering.
Okay. And then also the word mouth.
It's a
Covering is mouth.
covering.
Covering is mouth.
Covering his mouth.
Hmm. He spoke in muffled tone because his scarf was covering his mouth.
He spoke in a muffled tone because his scarf was covering his mouth.
Hmm. Spoke, muffled, scarf, covering, mouth.
Spoke, muffled, scarf, covering mouth.
He spoke in a muffled tone because his scarf was covering his mouth.
He spoke in a muffled tone because his scarf was covering his mouth.
Okay, now, how many phrases do you think we could divide this sentence into?
As a two.
Two? What are the two phrases?
Yeah. He spoke in a muffled tone,
Okay,
the first,
okay.
and the next is because his scarf was covering his mouth.
All right. Now, how do you want this to sound? Do you want this to sound happy or do you want this to sound serious?
So, it's a serious. Let's
Serious?
serious.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, how will this final part of the phrase sound? Muffled tone.
So, high, low and high.
Well, high. If it will finish low because it's the end of a phrase, and the end of a phrase will normally sound pretty low. But now,
Yeah.
if you start these words high, that would sound friendlier or nicer. And but if you start this phrase low, then it will sound more serious. So it's all low here. Muffled tone.
Yes.
Muffled tone.
Muffled, muffled tone
But how will the whole phrase start? Will that start low or high?
is a high.
Because most phrases do start high. So he spoke in a
Yeah.
muffled tone.
He is spoken in a muffled tone.
Okay. Now, how about the next phrase? Do you want this to sound serious or do you want this to sound serious or nice and friendly? How would you like it to sound?
It's a serious.
Serious? Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So the final part will all be low. There won't be any high tones. It will all just be low because you want to sound serious. But it will start high because most phrases start high. Because his scarf was covering his mouth.
Because his scarf was covering his mouth.
He spoke in muffled tone because his scarf was covering his mouth.
He spoke in a muffled tone because his scarf was covering his mouth.
Okay. Uh, can you make a why he speak in muffled tone question?
Why, why did he speak in a muffled tone?
Okay. And what is the most important word in your question?
So why?
So how does
Why?
it sound? If that's an important word, how does it sound?
So why did he speak?
What is the important word?
So why
So how does that word sound? If it's important, how does it sound?
is a long is a why
Why? Why?
why
So it's not why.
is a why
Why? How does why plus did plus he? How does that sound?
why did he
Why? Make why bigger. Why did he? Why did he? Why did he?
why did he
Why did he speak?
why did he speak
Why did he speakin'?
why did he speak in
Why did he speak in muffled tone?
why did he speak in muffled tone?
Hmm. Okay, and what is the answer?
He spoke in a muffled tone because the scarf was covering his mouth.
Okay, because the scarf was covering his mouth. All right. Okay, let's
Yeah,
move on
because
to our next example, which is to make up for something. This is a very, very common phrasal verb. Have you seen that phrasal verb before?
he, he